fragrance for good. We believe in creating space to flourish. And so what we've done today with this panel is some very remarkable, diverse voices here. Kim Gillingham is one of my friends since I was 18 years old. But she's a renowned acting coach, dream guide, and really works with actors, executives, directors, and really helping people get in contact with their most creative self, with their most imaginative self, and I would say probably helping with identity and really connecting with identity. Paul Katami, his husband, Jeff Cirillo, here in the audience, are of course, Todd and I are blown away, and Justin, our son here, who's in the audience. These gentlemen were the plaintiffs in the Prop 8 lawsuit, and basically have changed the world for better because of that. 4.5 years of hard work, and have made, it's incredible. So we are thrilled to have you. And Chandler Burr, Chandler is truly an icon in fragrance. This is a gentleman who's written, he's a New York Times film critic, and he's also written 3 novels. I'm sorry, I said film critic, perfume critic. And he's written 3 novels, The Perfect Scent, The Emperor of Scent, and You or Someone Like You. And I think Todd's kind of passed the fragrance around. You or Someone Like You came from the novel that Chandler wrote. He is a creative director, and he can talk about that. But it's by an incredible fragrance house, État Libre d'Orange. This is we are here because it's Pride Month, and because this is a very important time for everyone, with politics going on, with technology, and even, I would say, COVID. What's happened is we feel as though the world has become separated, and how do we start bringing each other back together? How do we start reconnecting? How do we start bringing different voices together and reconnect? We believe that storytelling is an incredible way to do that. We believe that fragrance is incredible storytelling. For us, it's really about that everyone matters, everyone's voice matters, everyone's story matters. And when we can start looking at everyone through that lens, we'll be able to start having new conversations, fresh conversations. So I'm starting tomorrow crossing the United States on a 10-day motorcycle tour and stopping in different cities. And we're going to be meeting with from Fred Hoiberg, who's the coach of the Nebraska Cornhuskers, to Angus Fletcher, Dr. Angus Fletcher, who's an incredible storytelling expert at Ohio State University, and just a range of artists, influencers, and storytellers. And to start with this esteemed panel is a real treat, so thank you. Paul, I thought we'd kick it off with you, if you don't mind, because I think, I know Take a Stand is an organization that you founded. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about it and really kind of talk about where we are today and identity and reconnecting.
Thank you, Jeff, for having us. This is great, and thank you everyone for showing up. I think the simple thing about what Take a Stand is, it was born out of the idea that if you wait for the motorcycle to go by, if people can hear you better. That's your motorcycle? Getting ready to hit the road for the next 10 days? It's a little early.
A lot better, trust me.
The idea of coming together is, to me, about a network of courageousness. And to me, that's what taking a stand means. Taking a stand means that you aren't taking a seat, that you're taking a stand for something versus against something. A lot of times you talked about politics, you talked about what we're dealing with now post-COVID, politics, bringing people together. A lot of times when you're fighting for something that you believe in, you're considered the resistance. We've been for a long time called the resistance. And I believe that if you flip the script on this and you become the force against resistance, that resistance is against our freedoms, it's against togetherness, it's against the idea of taking a stand for something you believe in because of whatever is holding you back or building a fence around what you deserve. And so if we become a force, we become a force together, and then we are unstoppable. So the storytelling, the bringing together, we were just taking a scent, Chandler's new scent, and we had a vibrant conversation immediately about what was in this scent. And that brought us together in a different way, and it had us talking about something different, and we got to know each other, and I'll not forget that now. So taking a stand for me is just as simple as that. It's like, this is my product based on my novel with this character. For us, it was 1,100 rights that we and anyone that were like us did not have access to. And when you get to a certain point where you're apathetic because you're not capable of having the thing that everyone tells you you're not supposed to have, there's a breaking point, and that breaking point is a threshold, and that threshold is speaking up for yourself, because we're so afraid of what we might lose if we speak up. But what we found out is we actually aligned with our path, and we were not afraid of losing. As we became more aligned, we became more successful in the thing that we were deserving most of, and that was just simply being treated fairly.
That's so amazing. Justin, our son, is in the audience here. He's 26 now.
Don't you love it when your dad just talks about you constantly? There he is.
Paul and Jeff, we did the bus tour. We rented a bus tour and went with two families up and down the state during Prop 8 to say no, vote no on Prop 8. And we stood in the hall for Obama's election and of course celebrated that. But Justin, on the journey while we were going up and down the state, getting out in parking lots, in grocery store parking lots, asked, if this passes, are they going to take me away from you? And, you know, hearing you say, Paul and Jeff, that it was 4.5 years, and that is a long time. It's a long time. And I just want to ask you, when you think about 4.5 years and how long it took to see that happen, and then the change that happened, the lives that you've affected on subways, surprised in different places, and all of that, what would you offer up to people today when we feel kind of the weight of the world of what's going on, to give that strength, that courage, that resilience, that grit to move forward, to take a stand?
It's a really good question. I think it's the idea that we're not different, that we're all fighting for such similar things in our lives, especially the things that are most important: connection, love, story, legacy. And if you really rely on that, you know, Jeff had a really great quote once. We were on, it was one of the major networks in the presidential, there was a lot going on, presidential election I think was starting to happen. And he simply said this, which really resounded with me, is, you know, and I this is my quote, it's easy to demonize an idea, it's hard to demonize a person. And Jeff said, just come to our home and have a meal with us. And what we'll find is it's an invitation to a conversation versus a fight or a debate. So to answer that question, I would think that there's not a lot that divides us when we truly focus on what's important. And when we do, that brings us all together.
That's amazing. You know, Kim, what that made me think of, Paul, is that all of our dreams are never the same, ever, and everyone's dreams are different. What is the connection of dreams that we have with each other? How do dreams connect us with each other?
Well, when we open up our dreams and begin to listen to the material that's in them, it often drops beneath the culture, beneath the frenzy and fray, and we really, similar to what you're saying, down to what really, really is grounding and important to each of us, revealed through the dreams and the symbols that come through. Incredibly, in my experience working with dreams, also the experience of revealing yourself, revealing what's important and truthful to you is so connecting with the community that you're working within. It establishes an enormous amount of trust within the company of artists or the company of people that you're working with. it's like a glue that builds trust and capacity to accept people's differences. Is what I've seen.
That's amazing. And Kim, what about people who don't, on a regular basis, write down their dreams or work with their dreams? What would you offer to them? Are there just some very simple tools that they can start?
Definitely. The dreams are very, and our work is to be very relational with the dreams. So the minute you become curious and interested in the dreams, there's a sense of their interest in you as well. So simply turning your care and attention towards them as you go to bed at night, writing a letter to your inner self and asking for a dream, or just whispering, I'd like to have a dream, or perhaps reading or smelling or thinking or in some way evoking a channel open to depth might attract and bring forward a dream.
Yeah.
Everybody dreams, and even if you, I read something about when you wake, are you waking on an inhale or an exhale? And that lately I've been really pondering that. Am I inhaling or exhaling? And even that just helps me linger for a moment and lets perhaps a dream image come back through.
I threw a question out to Kim about if a scent were a symbol in a dream, how could that be used?
Question.
Yeah.
I think this is an incredible
Well, that's why I was
question.
going to start moving towards Chandler there, because I think there's
Great question.
something really interesting
Yeah, it's
in there,
fantastic.
especially with character.
Yes. Yes. Should I just pass it to you?
No, but he asked you.
Well, I have no idea the answer to that, but it's an incredible question. Is scent a symbol? And without a doubt, in my work, the dreams are communicating in all sorts of different ways, in sound, in sense, in sight. So you might have a scent in my work that would evoke a memory that would connect you back to a place or a person or a time in a Proustian way. And that we would very much be interested in following that. But I've never thought this question that you asked, is a scent on its own a symbol? I would say yes. I would say yes.
Chandler, what would you say?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, what are we talking about? Symbol. What does symbol mean? Just something with meaning?
Well, from the sense where I'm coming from, something that is expressing something greater than itself. Like that, here's the tip of the iceberg, and there's a meaning or a thing beneath it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, I think with simple, Jeff, you'd certainly agree. You're creating symbols here. You're creating symbols of unity. That's what the brand is about. That's what your collection is about. That's what your ideas are about. Yeah, absolutely. I think that they're very potent symbols. I mean, it's Luca Durham once wrote that of a perfume. He said it has the visceral something like it has the visceral meaning of a flag. And you see a flag go up, and it's absolutely extraordinary. And if it's the American flag, it means certain things to you. Right now, for us, if you're a liberal and a Democrat like I am, then you're extremely ambiguous about it. Sorry, not ambiguous, ambivalent about it because of the way that it's been hijacked and so on. I lived in Japan for years. If I see the Japanese flag, I really feel something very, very positive. Think of the Nazi flag. You've seen that? I mean, these things have extraordinary power. You know what's one thing is interesting? I have heard that people almost never smell anything in dreams. Is that true?
I don't know. I would think no. I would think people do smell things in their dreams.
Do you remember smells? I don't ever remember having, and I don't ever remember remembering a smell in a dream ever.
You could ask for a dream and say, please, can I have a scent in my dream tonight?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and Kim, is there any recall for you with anybody that you've worked with that has talked about the smell of something or that they smelled something or?
Oftentimes no, that I don't remember, but very often when we're working in classes or workshops, I do cue things a lot through scent. I have an acting background, and Strasberg used to say that when you're lost, go to the sense of smell, the sense of scent, because it most connects you to your instinct, and would drop you out of your head.
That's very true.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I tell the story that my father owned a bar in Fort Lauderdale when I was a kid, and we couldn't go into the bar at night. But we could go in during the day if my mom needed to drop something off. And that the bar, when you went in there, it hadn't been cleaned yet, and it had this rubber mat, spilt drinks, cigarettes, this really rancid smell that didn't smell bad to me. It didn't smell good to me. It smelled like there was story. There was story happening in there, and I'm now going to ask. I'm going to do a dream assignment tonight, and the plan is that I'm doing a dream assignment every night as I go here on this trip. But I'm curious about symbols and our wellness, Paul. When we talk about, Kim said symbols stand for something greater. Right now, it feels as though young people, Gen Z, Alpha, that what kind of information, support, symbols, words of encouragement might you offer them right now? When we are, all of us, suffering, in one way or another, whether it's mental health, physical health, loneliness, because of this separation that's happened out there, what are the different tools that you feel are out there that we can start reconnecting and grounding ourselves for our own individual and collective well-being?
I love this question. In terms of a symbol, I have one that I think I really rely on, which is the ring.
Yeah.
But I also talk about concentric circles a lot. And we talked about it earlier, again, I'll repeat myself about the way people connect and how we connect with each other. And sometimes we're so defined by the singular thing that we want. That's my friend that is. That's my friend that wants. But what happens when we connect and we understand, I'm going to bring this to allyship as well. Because sometimes it's that concentric circle. It's the person who is not being oppressed, who has the ability to continue that connection beyond our means, talking to the people that may not ever talk to us because of what we are, who we are, how we love. So in terms of a symbolic, for us it was the ring. It was really about that impenetrable idea that if you were to find someone that you wanted to spend the rest of your life with, that you should be able to do that. We're going on 25 years this next year together, and so I feel like we are doubling and tripling down on this idea, but I will absolutely say that it was the concentricity, if that's a word, of connecting with people who are not necessarily like-minded, our friends that are not LGBTQ+, that helped us expand our network, expand our connection, and then living more authentically that way frees your creativity, it frees your connectivity, it frees the way that you present yourself to the world. And when you have that freedom, that connects you with everyone around you. It becomes this contagious, it's like invisible but palpable, beautiful energy when you meet people that you just know that you're connecting with.
I'm not ready to wind this up. I'm going to just tell you that what you just said is why there are 3 different people here on the panel that do that same thing. There's the fragrance that Chandler works with, freeing people up, also as a writer, and your work is really about freeing that creativity. Finding the different tools that we have in our toolbox on any given day, because some tools don't work in a certain day, right? We have this toolbox and we can pick and choose which ones work for us, but that's where, when we say creating space to flourish, whether it's being super cheeky, being, or dead serious, or really thought-provoking, everything changes. But what tools do we have? And, Kim, you have the dream work. That to me is the fact that you would say a ring and the idea of, I can just picture Kim and somebody working with somebody who's got a ring out there and working on what that ring means and really investing in that ring and how that ring can free you up. And that's why our discussion the other day, really about fragrance having that same potential, or scent, not just fragrance, but any scent doing that. I'd love for you just to talk about the book, You or Someone Like You, and what happened, because not only is the novel about identity, but something also happened for you in the process in your identity.
What happened to me in Israel?
No, what happened to you on just the fact that when it came to self-worth, self-value, belonging, and when you were approached by the fragrance house and the value of the book itself, what you started, what was revealed for you?
I think that the novel is sort of a fictional idea, a fictional me talking about the ideas that have just occurred to me. So the novel is called You or Someone Like You, and it is narrated by a woman who's English and who marries a Jewish American who's Protestant or post-Protestant, and she marries a Jewish American executive here in LA, and they actually live on Macapa Drive up there. I gave them a house and everything, and it's about identity. And in many ways, I actually don't agree with identity. I don't think that identity helps us in a lot of ways. I think it actually divides us, and I think it's the flip side, but maybe the same thing of what we've been saying here, which is I do think that we have to come together. In some ways, we are fundamentally different. We really are. I was talking about Project 2025, which is basically to turn America into The Handmaid's Tale. And that's a real difference. And we really have to oppose that and stand up and not pretend that there's not a huge difference there. I think at the same time, what we've been talking about, which is find the commonalities, is equally, maybe even more important, right? But I don't know. I think that we have to acknowledge that there are real differences. The book is about the fact that the book is about identity, and in the way that I don't believe in identity, I actually also recognize that it's extremely important in exactly this sort of way. It can be important in very good ways, and it can be important in very bad ways. The narrator says something. Oh, and the perfume, by the way, if you smelled it, the perfume is the fragrance that she would wear, and I mean it very much as a perfume, not what she would smell like, but this is the fragrance that this woman, this fictional narrator of mine, would wear if she were a real person. So that's how we made it. There's a point at which she has a PhD in romantic literature, and there's a point at which she talks about, she and her husband are debating home, and her husband agrees with Robert Frost's definition of home, and it is very simple. He wrote, and this is in the poem Death of a Hired Hand, if you guys remember that from school. He said, Frost said, home is the place where when you go there, they have to take you in. And I love that. I mean, that's wonderful. W.H. Auden had a different definition, which is a more complex definition, and which I think, does it reject identity or does it confirm identity? He said, home is a place, and this was a poem that from a poem, not a work of prose he did. Home is a place, not a building site, where you could choose to be somewhere else, and yet you have chosen this place and trust that you have chosen right. And it's the place where you should be in some way. He was talking about New York City, because he was completely with it, he was, what did somebody said about him, I can't remember, a very famous author, and somebody said, Auden's gone, and he said, yes, I think he said something like, that little faggot scuttling off to America with his boyfriend, because he went with Christopher Isherwood. And, Auden fought that his entire life. And what he did was he went to New York, and when they asked him what his identity was, have you stopped being British? Have you become American? And he said, no. I am still very much British, but fundamentally, and I'm not American, but fundamentally I'm a New Yorker. And he said, New York, this place where we all come, and I did it, where we all come to recreate ourselves, stamp out this new identity, only to recreate another one, to change, to be constantly in flux, to be everywhere and nowhere. And I think that's beautiful. So to me, that's the idea of identity, which is that I think it's constantly an adaptation.
That's amazing. I have to tell you, I'm going to dumb it down because I am full on thinking Stephanie Mills when I think of home right now. So, no, you know, New York to me
I
is.
love that song.
I mean,
I love that song.
You know, New York is a place, and Kim and I know we followed for a bit the same spiritual teacher, and you know, she had said, at least this was my version of it, is you know, meditating in the Himalayas is easy. Try meditating in New York, right? In New York City, and I think that's where we are right now, just as a society right now, is I truly think that we've not embraced the fact that we went through this global pandemic, and that technology is moving at absolutely beyond light speed, and it's just going to keep going at light speed, and that politics are a different kind of politics these days, and you know, I think it's, of course, our difference, we have these commonalities and we are incredibly different. And some of the stuff that we all hear, that I hear, is absolutely shocking, it's infuriating, it's you can't even get your head around it. I just felt as though, and Todd and I, our big thing is like, we can punch it, we can hit it, we can keep ramming it, and it's not going to get us anywhere. And so what's the other way in? And for us, a lot of that had to do with positive psychology, what's right with us rather than what's wrong with us. And not that we're not still thinking the thoughts or going, what the hell is going on here, but how we actually connect and listen to people that we might not agree with, but it doesn't have to be based on politics, right? You know, we can ease our way into the conversation, or we can go at the biggest point is there's no right or wrong. We just take a step in that direction. Paul, I want to ask you, because this is, it's, for me, this is a big deal with all the work that you and Jeff did. This is a very fraught time for what's happening, you know. The idea of marriage being threatened, of gay marriage being threatened right now. What is it that you feel as though is the best thing that we can do for our collective, and I think you talked about this, but I'd really love for you to bring it home with what could we do for our collective well-being?
It's a big question. I will simplify it. One of my personal heroes that I never met but would have loved to have met was Harvey Milk. And Harvey Milk stood up when it mattered. And he stood on the shoulders of other people, some that we don't know, but dating back to Stonewall and before that Black Cat here in Los Angeles. That when you stand up for your truth and you do fight back, like you said, punching sometimes, pushing, because that's how it started. Pride started like a riot. I mean, these things spark change. They call out to the world, connect with us. You're not alone. And I think a big part of that, going back to Harvey Milk, is when he said, tell your stories, come out of the closet. And I may say this in a controversial way, but we all can come out about something. It doesn't just belong to one person, one group, one community. We all have that power to be truthful. And by being truthful and authentic, there is something about that connection. You know, there's a study that came out recently that studied 25,000 people, and they asked these 25,000 people what human state really energizes you and makes you feel the most connected. I thought the answer was going to be love, because I'm a dork that way. I lead with love in everything that I do. But then the number one thing was authenticity. If you could truly look in the mirror and see pride and see fortitude and see energy, then you can actually impart that to someone else just by being truthful to them as well. You invite them to be a part of that. I think now, especially, rather than being apathetic, I'll just wait it out. I'll just wait it out. The world is ugly, I'll just wait it out. Now is the opportunity.
It's got
yeah, right, now is the opportunity. The opportunity is now to stand up louder than we ever have before. It is a turning point, a threshold, a road that we can take together, but it's going to really be based on speaking your truth.
I love that so much. Kim, will you share with the audience here what a letter might be about our own authenticity, a letter to ourselves for our dream at night?
That's great. I love what you said. Thank you for speaking to that. And I feel like all of our work, especially with technology galloping along, is to come more fully into our authenticity and humanity. So if we were collectively to ask for a dream tonight, whether you believe it or not, you might, before you go to bed tonight, you might write in your journal or just speak aloud or tell the person who's sleeping next to you. And you might ask, in our practice, we say, dear inner self, you could change it to whatever's right for you. If it is your will, please reveal to me in my dreams tonight, how might I bring my authenticity more fully through so that I could offer it to the world? With love and respect, yourself. Your name. And then whatever dream comes in response, you've all just had it dropped in, so you don't really have to do anything, it's already happened. But you could, then when you wake up, whatever images come, whatever sense might be with you, whatever might be there, just to even bring them to consciousness might be enough. There's a wonderful thing James Hillman says of it, it's more important to love the dream than to understand the dream. So that might be enough.
Chandler, can you offer up just a note on a note? In other words, Kim suggested a dream. How might somebody just appreciate a scent, a fragrance, as it relates to authenticity? Okay? How might they say that they connect to the authenticity of the fragrance, or that this is authentically them, or that they connect authentically with that?
I mean, the strict answer to your question, I think, is whatever is authentic to you is what you like. When you say note, by the way, you're talking about, you mean raw material.
It can be either a combination of raw materials, or a single raw material.
Or a single fragrance.
Single fragrance.
So we were talking about this molecule that I love. It's my favorite molecule. It's called cis-3-hexanol. And it's a huge part of this fragrance. And it's a very interesting molecule. It is a synthetic, but there's nothing wrong with synthetic molecules. As a matter of fact, a lot of people think synthetic means cheap and natural means expensive and higher quality. It's completely untrue. Absolutely untrue. There are a lot of, and perfumers do not divide materials that way. Consumers do. Consumers are wrong. It is absurd to say that something is, because scent is an art form, like film or painting. All of these are put together by minds. The paint would never be on the canvas like that, and these fragrance pieces, raw materials, would never be together like that. I love the molecule because I like the idea of green. It makes me feel good, and it's what's called a green molecule, and that just means There's geranium leaf in it also, that's obviously green, right? There's something called leaf aldehyde, which also makes you think of green. And cis-3-hexanol smells like a combination of freshly cut grass and green unripe banana. So it has a slight tropical angle to it, and if you smell the fragrance, it's very, very strong and it's very, very clear in it. And I mean, I think the answer to your question then with me is if I like something, it's because it really resonates with me and because I just am powerless under its influence, I guess.
Does anyone have a question out here? We've got just a minute, but I thought if anybody had a question for any of the panelists, I'd love to throw the mic your way. Yeah.
Do you think the world is getting more interested in fragrance and scents and what they mean? Or is this generation getting away from that?
This generation is getting much more interested. Much more. Do you know that in COVID, there was a huge spike in perfume sales? Absolutely gigantic. Everybody in the industry was aware of it. And people would say, well, I don't understand it. Well, duh. You know, it's so fucking obvious. Everybody's isolated. Now this is sort of what you're talking about. Everybody was cut off from everybody else. And you couldn't see people, right? You couldn't talk to people. You couldn't have dinners with them. You couldn't, but you could have an experience where you smelled with them. And it was very interesting because my then manager called up some people at HBO. My husband and I moved to LA so we could do television shows, actually, each having to do with scent in a completely different way. And Max called these 3 executives to do at HBO, and they said, we're all totally crazily into fragrance because it's the one experience that we can have that's completely unimpeded by isolation and lockdown.
I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank my phenomenal panelists. So thrilled that you guys are here. Thank you for your time. Absolutely. Please follow us at Free Yourself and Flourish, and you can follow me on the tour. You can check us out on the website at freeyourself.com. And guys, we also have our current fragrances here, the Elements collection. But we also got some little works in progress for our next 2 elements, and also this collection, which is our Mindful collection. So we'd love to have you come up and give us some thoughts and share your opinions on it. It'd be great. Yeah, we're so thrilled to do this, and thank you. I love seeing all these great faces who I love so much, so thank you.